Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're talking about one of the most shocking and heartbreaking stories connected to 90 Day Fiancé. Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh were once seen as proof that love could overcome age, distance, and culture. But behind the cameras, a much darker story was unfolding. According to confidential sources, Sumit Singh was secretly involved with multiple women during his marriage to Jenny. He wasn't just a husband. He was living a double life, from secret restaurant meetings to late-night rendezvous. His hidden relationships revealed a painful story of betrayal. And that wasn't the end of it. Sources also claim that Sumit fell into nearly $270,000 of online gambling debt. When the debt went unpaid, a lawsuit followed and he was later arrested. Jenny, crushed by lies, betrayal, and financial ruin, made the hardest decision of her life. She divorced Sumit. But Jenny's story didn't end there. In a surprising turn, she found love again and became engaged to a man named Jacob, beginning a new chapter filled with hope and healing. This is a story of love, betrayal, downfall, and redemption. Before all the scandal and heartbreak, there was love. A love that captured the hearts of millions of viewers around the world. Jenny Slatin, a warm and kind woman from California, met Sumit Singh, a younger man from India, through social media. What started as casual online conversations slowly turned into something deeper. Despite an age gap of nearly 30 years, they connected through shared stories, laughter, and emotional support. Their bond grew stronger, and eventually Jenny made a life-changing decision. She left her home, her family, and everything familiar in the United States to move to India to be with Sumit fans of 90 Day Fiancé. The other way watched their journey closely. Cultural differences, family disapproval, and endless obstacles stood in their way. But Jenny and Sumit appeared determined to face everything together. Jenny endured loneliness, isolation, and financial struggles in a foreign country just to stay by Sumit's side. Sumit promised her love and commitment. Against all odds and criticism, they eventually married. To many viewers, they became a symbol of hope. They showed that love could survive distance, age differences, cultural barriers, and family pressure. Their story felt real, emotional, and inspiring. But when the cameras stopped rolling and real life continued, cracks began to appear. Jenny believed her marriage was built on trust and honesty. She had given up everything for Sumit, her comfort, her stability, and her life back home. She wanted to believe that love was enough. At first, the changes were small. Late-night phone calls, a sudden need for privacy, excuses to leave the house at strange hours. Sumit began to feel distant. He was less affectionate and more distracted. His warmth faded into short answers and silence. Jenny tried to ignore it. She told herself marriage wasn't perfect, and that stress could explain his behavior. She wanted to trust the man she had fought so hard to be with. But rumors began to spread. Neighbors claimed they saw Sumit at restaurants with women Jenny didn't know. Sources whispered that he was meeting other women in secret while telling Jenny he was working late or out with friends. At first, Jenny couldn't believe it. She had stood by him through family rejection and countless struggles. The idea that he would betray her seemed impossible. Still, the signs kept adding up. Friends noticed how Sumit guarded his phone, even taking it into the bathroom. He was often unreachable at night. When questioned, his explanations sounded rehearsed, as if he had told the same story too many times. Soon, alleged screenshots of late-night messages began circulating. Photos surfaced of Sumit dining with other women. With every new detail, the image of their marriage started to fall apart. Jenny tried to convince herself it was gossip or jealousy. But deep inside, doubt was growing. Eventually, the truth became impossible to ignore. According to sources close to the couple, Sumit wasn't just seeing one other woman. He was involved with several at the same time. While Jenny believed she was his only love, Sumit was telling different stories to different women. One woman described quiet evenings with Sumit in hidden cafes where he talked about a future together. Another said he took her to busy restaurants, but always sat in dark corners to avoid being recognized. A third claimed she saw him openly holding hands with a younger woman in a shopping mall, laughing like a carefree couple. Each story revealed the same truth. Sumit was living two lives, one as a devoted husband beside Jenny, and another as a single man chasing excitement and attention. For Jenny, the betrayal was devastating. She had given up everything for him, only to discover the man she trusted was never truly honest. As if the emotional pain wasn't enough, financial disaster followed. Sources revealed that Sumit had accumulated massive online gambling debt, nearly $270,000. When he failed to repay the money, legal action was taken. A lawsuit was filed, and Sumit was later arrested. Jenny was left to face the fallout emotionally, financially, and publicly. Overwhelmed by lies, betrayal, and chaos, Jenny made the painful decision to walk away. She divorced Sumit, ending a relationship that had once seemed unbreakable. But from the ashes of heartbreak, Jenny slowly rebuilt her life. She found strength, clarity, and eventually love again. She became engaged to a man named Jacob, opening the door to a future filled with honesty, stability, and hope. This story is a reminder that not everything we see on screen reflects the full truth. It's a story of love that inspired millions, betrayal that shattered trust, and a woman who found the courage to start over. California faced cultural rejection and stood proudly beside Sumit even when the world doubted them. Discovering that he had divided his heart and his time among multiple women felt like a knife cutting straight through Jenny's trust. But what shocked those closest to the couple wasn't only the affairs. It was how boldly Sumit carried them out. He was seen at well-known restaurants, walking through crowded streets, and openly using his phone for secret conversations. It was almost as if he believed he would never be caught. Still, the evidence kept growing. Screenshots of text messages revealed sweet words and promises he had made to other women. Witnesses confirmed seeing him in intimate moments that left little room for doubt. Slowly, the image of Jenny and Sumit's fairytale marriage began to fall apart in the public eye. And the revelation of other women was only the beginning. Behind this betrayal was an even darker truth, one that had nothing to do with love and everything to do with money. As the pieces of Sumit's double life came together, one detail stood out more than anything else: his secret meetings at restaurants across the city. According to eyewitnesses, these were not random encounters. They were carefully planned meetings. Sumit was often seen entering dimly lit cafes, quiet rooftop lounges, and hidden restaurants meant for people who wanted privacy. He usually arrived early, scanning the room before choosing a corner table. Soon after, a woman would arrive, sometimes dressed casually, sometimes dressed for a romantic evening. They would laugh, whisper, and sit together for hours. One restaurant owner, speaking anonymously, said Sumit became a regular guest, but never with the same companion. He always asked for the table farthest from the entrance and stayed for at least 2 hours. It was clear he didn't want to be noticed. Another witness described a painful scene. Sumit was seen gently holding a woman's hand across the table while Jenny was at home waiting for him. For those who once admired his loyalty, the image was hard to forget. At home, Jenny began noticing patterns. Sumit would leave in the evenings with vague excuses about work, family matters, or errands. He returned late, sometimes smelling of food or perfume. When she asked questions, his answers came too fast, as if rehearsed. It became clear these were not work dinners or innocent outings. They were dates, carefully hidden from Jenny, but obvious to anyone paying attention. As time passed, Sumit grew bolder. He became less careful and more reckless. He believed he could keep his marriage while continuing his secret relationships. What he didn't realize was that the consequences were about to grow far beyond his control. Because behind the romantic dinners and whispered promises, Sumit was hiding another secret. One that threatened not only his marriage, but his entire future. A secret tied not to love, but to money and addiction. While rumors and eyewitness accounts hinted at betrayal, it was the digital evidence that confirmed everything. For a long time, Jenny trusted Sumit completely. She didn't check his phone or question his privacy. She believed trust meant giving space. But as the rumors grew louder, his phone became a source of suspicion. According to people close to the couple, Sumit guarded his phone obsessively. He slept with it under his pillow, carried it into the bathroom, and became defensive when Jenny asked simple questions. His behavior only raised more concern. Then the leaks began. Screenshots started circulating among people who knew the couple. The messages were clear and emotional, filled with pet names, heart emojis, and plans to meet in secret. One message reportedly said, "I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Don't worry, she'll never know." Even more damaging were the photos. Images appeared of Sumit dining at upscale restaurants with women who were clearly not Jenny. In one photo, he leaned across the table, smiling and holding a woman's hand. In another, he was seen walking through a mall with a younger woman, shopping bags in hand. These images spread quickly, moving from private circles to online fan communities. The couple once celebrated as proof that love could overcome everything was now surrounded by scandal. Fans who once supported them began questioning everything. Jenny confronted Sumit, but instead of honesty, she received excuses. He claimed the photos were innocent and the messages misunderstood. But the evidence was too strong to ignore. Behind every message and every photo was a man who had promised Jenny everything while secretly living another life. And as painful as this betrayal was, it was only the beginning. Because the same phone that exposed his affairs also revealed something far more dangerous. A hidden addiction that would pull both Sumit and Jenny into chaos. While the messages and photos confirmed his betrayal, there was one secret Sumit guarded more fiercely than any other. A secret that threatened his future entirely. It began quietly. Jenny noticed strange charges on their accounts. Small withdrawals, unexplained payments. When she asked, Sumit brushed it off, saying he was repaying friends or covering minor expenses. Jenny wanted to believe him, so she did. But behind closed doors, a darker reality was unfolding. According to confidential sources, Sumit had become addicted to online gambling. What started as casual betting on poker and roulette apps slowly turned into a serious obsession. Night after night, he placed larger bets, convinced the next one would fix everything. Gambling became his escape from stress, guilt, and responsibility. But every win led to bigger risks, and every loss pushed him deeper into trouble. The amounts quickly grew overwhelming. Within months, Sumit had accumulated nearly $270,000 in gambling debt. Creditors began calling. Gambling platforms froze his accounts. He borrowed money from friends, pawned valuables, and secretly used money Jenny believed was being saved for their future. When Jenny finally realized the truth, she was devastated. She had moved across the world to build a stable life with Sumit. Instead, she learned he had gambled away their savings and their security. The addiction explained everything. The late nights, the secret phone use, the missing money. Even some of the restaurant meetings weren't romantic at all, but meetings with people connected to his debts. But gambling leaves records, and eventually those records catch up. What started as a private problem soon became a legal one. Jenny had already endured emotional betrayal. Now she was facing financial ruin. The damage was massive. This wasn't a small mistake or a temporary problem. According to financial records shared by sources, Sumit's debt spread across multiple gambling platforms. He tried to hide it by borrowing, selling possessions, and convincing Jenny to give up what little savings she had left. But the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. The life they once dreamed of was collapsing, setting the stage for lawsuits, legal trouble, and the complete breakdown of their marriage. But no matter how hard Sumit tried to hide the truth, the damage had already been done. The debts continued to grow, and the pressure became impossible to escape. Creditors stopped waiting patiently. Calls turned into threats. Emails turned into legal notices. What Sumit once believed he could control had now taken control of him. Eventually, a lawsuit was filed against him for unpaid gambling debts. The situation escalated quickly. According to sources, Sumit ignored multiple warnings, convinced he could still find a way out. But the system doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive unpaid money. Authorities became involved, and Sumit was arrested in connection with the unpaid debt. The news sent shockwaves through everyone who knew the couple. For Jenny, this was the moment everything collapsed. The man she had defended, sacrificed for, and trusted with her entire future was now standing at the center of scandal, debt, and legal trouble. The emotional weight was unbearable. She wasn't just dealing with betrayal. She was dealing with humiliation, fear, and the realization that her life had been built on lies. Friends close to Jenny described her as emotionally exhausted. She had already endured isolation in a foreign country, rejection from Sumit's family, and years of instability. Now she was facing legal chaos and financial uncertainty, all caused by someone she loved deeply. The stress took a visible toll on her. She struggled to sleep, struggled to eat, and struggled to recognize the life she was living. Sumit, meanwhile, tried to downplay the situation. He promised Jenny he would fix everything. He claimed the arrest was a misunderstanding and that the debt could still be resolved. But his words had lost their power. Every promise sounded empty. Every explanation felt rehearsed. Jenny had heard it all before. This time, something inside her changed. For years, Jenny had been fighting for the relationship, fighting family disapproval, fighting cultural barriers, fighting public criticism. But now she realized she was fighting alone. Love was no longer enough to justify the pain she was enduring. The trust was gone, completely shattered. Jenny began to reflect on everything she had given up. Her home in California, her independence, her financial security, her sense of peace. She had crossed the world for love, only to be left with betrayal and chaos. Slowly, the ideas she had been avoiding began to feel unavoidable. She had to choose herself. After long, painful consideration, Jenny made the hardest decision of her life. She filed for divorce. It wasn't a dramatic moment filled with shouting or revenge. It was quiet, heavy, and heartbreaking. Ending the marriage meant accepting that the dream she fought so hard for was never real. When the divorce became public, reactions were mixed. Some fans were heartbroken. Others said they saw it coming. Many expressed sympathy for Jenny, praising her strength for finally walking away. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't defending Sumit. She wasn't making excuses. She was simply done. The divorce marked the end of a chapter that had defined her life for years. But it also marked the beginning of something new. After separating from Sumit, Jenny stepped away from the spotlight. She focused on healing, both emotionally and mentally. Friends say she leaned heavily on her support system back home. Phone calls with loved ones became longer and more frequent. Slowly, she began to rebuild a sense of stability she hadn't felt in years. Healing wasn't quick. There were moments of guilt, moments of sadness, and moments when she questioned whether she had failed. But over time, Jenny began to understand something important. Loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing your entire well-being. Loyalty doesn't mean accepting betrayal. As the months passed, Jenny found herself rediscovering who she was outside of the relationship. She returned to old hobbies. She reconnected with people she had lost touch with. For the first time in a long time, her life felt calm. And then, unexpectedly, love found her again. Through mutual friends, Jenny met a man named Jacob. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't dramatic. What stood out was his consistency. He listened. He respected her boundaries. He didn't hide his phone or make excuses. He showed up when he said he would. At first, Jenny was cautious. Her past had left scars, and trust didn't come easily anymore. But Jacob was patient. He never rushed her. He understood her fears and never dismissed her pain. Slowly, the walls around her heart began to lower. What started as friendship grew into something deeper. For the first time, Jenny felt safe in a relationship. There was no chaos, no secrets, no constant anxiety, just honesty and support. Eventually, Jacob proposed. The engagement surprised many people, but those close to Jenny saw it as a natural step. She wasn't chasing love anymore. She was choosing peace. The woman who once sacrificed everything for someone else was now building a future where she came first. Meanwhile, Sumit faded from public view. His legal and financial troubles continued to follow him. The life he tried to juggle eventually collapsed under its own weight. Friends who once defended him grew silent. The charm that once excused his behavior was gone. Jenny, however, had moved on. Her journey became a powerful reminder to many viewers. Love should never require losing yourself. Trust is not something to gamble with. And sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. What began as a love story that inspired millions ended as a lesson about self-worth, honesty, and resilience. Jenny's story is no longer about heartbreak. It's about survival, about growth, about finding the courage to start over, even when the cost is high. And in the end, that may be the most powerful chapter of all.